Class is dismissed, boys and girls.
You're in. Let's go!
Previously on the YTV Retrospective.
David Busters, I miss you.
Check this out. Everybody. Check it out.
Beast Wars! In 1995, Hasbro was in dire need to reinvigorate the Transformers franchise after their Generation 2 line did not meet expectations. What with all the rap-filled commercials,
Flying all around in the air and on the ground, Transformer rotors are spinning!
the 90s era ultraviolet comic books, blinding neon recolors, and the cartoon basically being rehashed Generation 1 episodes with terrible CGI effects. However, with the help of the newly acquired Kenner, they breathed new life into the toy line. They took the robots in disguise to a whole new level, and in 1996, Beast Wars came to be. Hasbro then had an animated series made with Mainframe Entertainment, with its then groundbreaking 3D animation to animate it. With head writers Bob Ford and Larry DiTillio scribing the lore and conflict, and with a Vancouver-based voice cast giving life and personality to the characters, this became one of the most well-known, if not the best, Transformers series made. The raging battle between the Maximals and Predacons went through a lot of development, from having Optimus and Megatron being a bat and alligator, to working around the limits of Mainframe's technology, as they could only have 5 characters on at a time. As it jumped around on US television from syndication, to Fox Kids, to Cartoon Network, Beast Wars, or Beasties as it was called in Canada, due to broadcast standards not wanting the word war in the title of a toy-driven show. Despite a certain franchise that was making a comeback that has the word war in the title, it had a steady home on YTV, lasting for years on the air, even after it finished in 1999. So in honor of the 25th anniversary of the series, I'll be taking a look at my personal 10 favorite episodes, showing why they hold well to me. A couple of ground rules. These are my personal favorites, and they are of course my opinion. They could be different from your own. Also, these are in no particular order either. It's Juice and Jam time!
That's my joke! I'll kill you!
Let the war begin! Call of the Wild. After a night battle with the Predacons, the Maximals discover that a part of their ship, which protected them from the Energon radiation, was stolen. This causes them to begin their beast modes even within their base, and the Predacons take advantage of this, relentlessly attacking the Axelon for days on end. The endless assault on them starts to get to the Maximals, as they become tired and irritated from being in beast mode for too long. As they sleep, each of the Maximals have been getting nightmares, as if they were the beast they have copied. The more they stay in their beast modes, the more of an animal and savage they become. They soon leave their base, believing they are the beast instead of the bots. The only sensible ones that can help resist their beast mode is Tigertron, a Maximal who became a pacifist and accepting of his beast mode, then his robot mode, and Air Razor. Interesting how they hook up later on. However, as planned, Megatron makes a hunt for the ages, not even being subtle about it either. I like that this gives the beast mode more of a purpose. Instead of just copying a vehicle, they copy the traits of the animal that they have adapted, giving it more of a personality. This episode also gives a larger purpose to Tigatron, who has been seen on his own up to this point, and is usually called upon in case of emergencies. This episode really played into his strengths, accepting the beast within. Funny how it's the opposite of how they transform in beast machines, taking the beast without, being accepting of both halves. Also, this episode is great for the Predacons, giving them more of the lines in the episode, while everyone is an animal. Call of the Wild is a hunt that is worth a watch.
Remember, do not fight your beast instincts. Let them help your robot forms, both in battle and in peace. But for now, let us maximize. And slag some butt!
The Agenda, Parts 1 to 3. In this multi-part story, we have learned the true purpose of Megatron's plan, as he began to cause destruction on the proto-humans that first existed on Earth, but was foiled by Dinobots. But there is more to this plan than meets the eye. Meanwhile in Cybertron, the Tri-Predacons Council sends covert agent Ravage to prehistoric Earth to arrest Megatron. With the Maximals and Ravage successfully capturing Megatron, it starts to become more interesting as the truth finally sets in. The history-changing task wasn't his own. It was given to him by another source.
This is Megatron, leader of the Decepticons, and if you are hearing this, it means I've failed. This time.
The original Megatron. The task was to find the Ark, the ship carrying the Autobots led by Optimus Prime, which would be reactivated in the year 1984. Now this is how you try to connect a continuity together. You had some good points going for you, but continuity wasn't one of them. This was at a time when the fandom, primarily the G1 community, was at arms over the series. Truck not monkey, monkey not truck, they cried. And the creators looked and brought on a consultant with Transformers fan Benson Yee to bring the continuity of both G1 and Beast Wars together. And they did it beautifully. Having stakes not only for this series, but what would be Generation 1. It brought a fandom together and ended on... Oh no. Please tell me this continues. Oh, thank God. Had it end there? Oh, there would be a bittersweet price to pay. So many questions would have been left unanswered. All in all, this is one of Mainframe's best cliffhangers they ever did.
Yes, the Autobots lose. Evil triumphs. And you no longer exist.
Transmutate. A stasis pod has crash-landed on Earth, carrying a robot unlike any seen prior or since. This is Transmutate, played by the voice director of Beast Wars and original voice of RC, Susan Blue.
No. Hurt.
Also, it makes this line pretty funny.
What in the name of my great Aunt Aussie is going on here?
A slow-moving robot who also speaks in small sentences, with an uncontrollable power. The Maximals want to help Transmutate control its power, but Silverbolt sees more than that. He sees a friend. He isn't the only one, as Rampage is looking for Transmutate as well. As the two fight over it, Transmutate forces the two to stop. At a price. They were too late, and Transmutate gets caught in the crossfire. This is a very interesting episode, as this is the only character development that Rampage ever had. Unlike Silverbolt, Rampage sees Transmutate differently. He has a deranged kinship for Transmutate. He sees another tragic soul like his own that is missing something.
The darkness of its spark echoes my own. It belongs with me.
Rampage is missing half his spark, and Transmutate with any movement or speech. Wish to have seen more for Rampage instead of being dominated by Megatron having his life held hostage. This was probably his best development as a character. Also, props to Inferno for calling Megatron something other than my queen.
I won't have you freaks plotting behind the royalties' back.
Transmutate itself is actually a really good metaphor for those who have a disability, be it a mental or physical one. The acceptance that both Silverbolt and Rampage have towards it is very endearing.
Are we Predacons now? Do we destroy whatever does not fit our definition of perfection?
While the Maximals and Predacons fight for control of it and its uncontrollable power, both Rampage and Silverbolt accept Transmutate for who it is. And it makes its death all the more tragic. Transmutate is a tragic tale that is a strong lesson of acceptance.
No. Let him be. For the moment, we are brothers.
Possession. On a dark and stormy night, the lowest of the Predacons, Razbalatur, is doing his job working to repair the computer systems. As this happens, a spark is seen floating in space, enters the Predacon base, and appears on the monitor, taking over the buzzing bot. This specter is none other than Starscream.
Allow me to present myself. Air Commander Starscream of the Decepticon Battle Fleet!
He's back with a vengeance. He explains to the Predacons how he perished defending Cybertron from the planet-sized Transformer, Unicron. Let's be fair, that's not what really happened.
Here's a hint.
Will anyone else attempt to fill his shoes?
With Starscream's military knowledge, they begin to devise a strategy to ambush the Maximals while they are repairing their ship. Driven from their base, the Maximals devise a plan of their own by using Starscream's own treacherous nature against him and the Predacons. Possession provides the first major use of the G1 continuity in this series, and it was definitely interesting to bring back Starscream. Great. Now there are two backstabbers in the Predacons, with Pterosaur being the other. This is Waspinator's first character-specific episode, and the irony of it all is, he's barely in it, being possessed! Starscream was the big winner of this episode, and it showed especially with his over-the-top acting.
I'll be back! Even if it takes 1,000 years, I'll be revenged on you!
Dark designs. After a battle between the Maximals and Predacons, which caused a rock slide, Rhinox was blocked off from the others and got captured by Tarantulas and the Predacons. They had an idea of implementing a virus into Rhinox and have him becoming a Predacon himself. This episode is entirely the experience of that. Rhinox stole the show on this episode, showing that he can actually work well with the Predacons, but maybe a little too well.
No, but I've got a hunch that Megatron's bitten off a little more than he bargained for. Yes.
Richard Newman, the actor for Rhinox, did an excellent job taking the calm voice he has for him and giving it more of a sinister edge that makes it work as a double agent. Basically being bad to the bone, playing it cool, and having more of an attitude to him.
One false move and you're a new fast food sensation. Pterodactyl Hot Wings.
He played the Predacons all like fiddles, taking them out one by one. The only one that almost didn't fall for it was Megatron.
It's called irony, sport. I take over, and you head straight for the recycling bin. Yes.
After a while, they removed the Predacon virus, knowing too well that he is insanely good at being a Predacon. This seems like surprising foreshadowing for Rhinox. We just didn't know it yet. Rhinox is a smart Maximal, and also a smart Predacon. And while he is seen as the show's technician character, he is... Bad Spark. A massive stasis pod fell from the sky into a murky swamp, with the Maximals searching for it. The robot opened its stasis pod on its own and lurking in the background. We learned one of the main reasons why our crew of Maximals were sent out from Cybertron. They were not only an exploration team, but exiling out very dangerous cargo. That cargo is Protoform X, a scientific experiment gone horribly wrong when recreating Starscream's immortal spark. Now the Maximals have to fend off the powerful Protoform X that is looming in the shadows, waiting to strike those with fear. Protoform X was eventually found by Megatron and cut his spark in half as hostage to become a part of the Beast Wars, renaming him Rampage. This episode delved into a genre that the Transformers had rarely done before at the time: horror. The eerie swamp, the looming stranger ready to take its next victim, a backstory that could be taken straight off a Friday the 13th movie? This episode had it all, and it surprisingly worked well. Rampage wasn't the only thing that was introduced in this episode. It was the start of the relationship between the stoic Maximal Silverbolt and the sassy Predacon Black Arachnia. Now, relationships in this series is nothing new. We had the relationship with Maximals Tigertron and Airazor that came out of nowhere and weren't seen again until they were fused together. But this was a relationship that at first wasn't meant to be, as they were from two warring factions, giving each other confidential information about their respective team, somehow saving each other's lives, and eventually forming a bond. Bad Spark was an experiment that worked well on both sides of the Beast Wars.
Welcome, my new servant. Yes. Welcome to the Beast Wars.
Changing of the Guard. In order to increase the defenses of the Ark, the Maximals must find the pieces of the Sentinel defense grid to keep themselves and the Autobots safe. They search through the water using a paddle submarine that has to be piloted by one particular rodent. Hey, at the very least it has a built-in radio. All seems to be going according to plan until Rampage shows up. Luckily, Def Charge shows up and continues his revenge-fueled hunt on the monstrous Crabbot. It soon becomes a game of keep away as the Maximals and Predacons fight over Sentinel. This chase, mixed in with Depth Charge and Rampage's squabble, costs the Maximals the Sentinel defense grid as it falls into the hands of the Predacons. This episode definitely showed the main plot of Depth Charge's character development, basically being the new Maximal with the cold, ruthless nature, with the one-track mind of removing Protoform X, as he was the sole survivor of Rampage's, well, Rampage. Though at the same time, he begins to open up to the other Maximals in this episode, joining them at the very end. This was a good character episode for Depth Charge, and proof that he could be a great member of the Maximals.
Was Benito having a good day? Not get shot once.
Proving Grounds. Black Arachnia is struggling to figure out her place in the Maximals. When the Maximals discuss removing the shell program that made her a Predacon, she runs away, not ready to take on the risks as it could potentially kill her.
Let's talk about futures. Yours and mine. Mine's gotten complicated.
While outside of the Ark, she is hunted down by a familiar face. In Dinobot. Sorry, Dinobot 2. A clone of the original Dinobot that Megatron cooked up in an attempt to create a new upgraded form, Transmutate 2. While Rat Trap is distracted by playing some Street Fighter and Doom, Silverbolt tries to look for her without the others knowing, and finds her using the power of his theme music.
Thank Primus I've found you. Nothing to say for yourself, eh?
Black Arachnia was an interesting character on the Predacon side, being the one with the most character development, as she not only had to deal with the mind control of Tarantulas in Season 2, but now also having death being a possibility not once, but twice in Season 3. Now she is trying to find her identity as a Maximal, when she has been seen as a Predacon for the majority of the series. There was good that came out, and that helped with her relationship with Silverbolt, and eventually gets the shell program removed a few episodes later, causing her to change to a Transmetal 2. A weird aspect of this episode was in fact Cheetor. Now upgraded to a Transmetal 2, not only has he got a more beastly robot and beast mode designed to him, but also he's going through puberty.
Now those are what I call lines.
Someone get him a kitty treat before he drools all over your computer.
It's pretty creepy, especially with the fact that he has a picture of Black Arachnia right beside his bed, despite her already having a boyfriend in Silverbolt. Nevertheless, Black Arachnia was one of the main focal points of Season 3, and this was the start to her transformation into a strong Maximal.
You mean I had a choice?
That is the Maximal way.
Optimal Situation. Continuing with the agenda 3-parter left off, the Maximals, with the surprising help of Black Arachnia, fix the timeline for being completely destroyed by repairing Optimus Prime after being blasted by Megatron. In order to keep him alive, Optimus Primal decides to make the bold move of protecting the Autobot Matrix of Leadership. In doing so, merged it with his spark and becoming a brand new beast. Or rather, vehicle? This is Optimal Optimus, and this guy is huge. Quadruple changing giant that was able to take care of all of the Predacons. Now this is how you continue a mainframe cliffhanger, even though it seems a little anticlimactic that fixing the time stream was as easy as fixing a screw loose in Optimus Prime. Black Arachnia joining the Maximals makes sense as she was originally a Maximal. If Megatron went through with the time-traveling shenanigans, she would not have existed either. And if the Beast Wars Transmetal fighting game is anything to go by, it could have been much worse. As cool as Optimal Optimus was, it's such a shame that he gets nerfed an episode later. This transformation is also pretty gruesome looking as well, having wings being grown out of Optimus's back in agonizing pain. Now they have their new task of protecting the Ark and the Autobots within, and also setting up traps to keep the Predacons out. Which, considering this group, that's pretty easy to do.
Coming, my queen!
This, in my opinion, was my favorite episode of Season 3. It has its flaws, but at least we have a continuation with a season that actually ends the series. In a series with several cliffhangers.
Stay close, Maximal. It's time to transform and roll out.
Code of Hero. Now this episode has a lot of stakes to it. After Dinobot loses the Golden Disc to Megatron, he has basically put all of the Maximals on edge and in danger, to the point of the team beginning to not trust him. This hits Rat Trap the worst, as he sees Dinobot as a good friend, even though A, same actor, and B, they throw insults at each other, though getting less nasty over time. Dinobot even attempts seppuku, but doesn't go through with it. So he must do what is right. Get the disc back no matter the cost, while also stopping Megatron from killing a village of proto-humans. Dinobot was probably the most developed character on Beast Wars, and this is the conclusion to his character arc. Originally joining the Maximals for a tactical advantage over Megatron, he becomes more of an ally despite his cold, ruthless warrior nature. He made constant mistakes to get the upper hand, giving the golden disc back to Megatron, in which we finally learned why he stole it in the first place. It's the disc from the Voyager space probe, containing a record of Earth history, with Megatron attempting to alter it by attacking the proto-humans, thus wiping out the modern human race before they become allies to the Autobots. For Dinobot, this was a point of no return. It was do or die. The sunset duel between Dinobot and the Predacons is one of the best fights this series has to offer. From using enemies as meat shields to brutal destruction, it had it all. For a character that loved using the lines of Shakespeare, his character was a tragedy. A tragic way for a character to go. He learned that his previous actions had major consequences, and had to own up to it the only way he knew how, and regained the trust of the Maximals after his death. This is an episode that has been seen on numerous lists, and for good reason. Dinobot became a popular character to the point where they created a clone for the Predacons. It's not the same! His death was certainly the strongest the series has to offer. If I had to pick an absolute favorite episode from the series, it would definitely be this.
He lived a warrior and died a hero. Let his spark join the Matrix, the greatest of Cybertron.
And those are my 10 favorite episodes. Beast Wars, despite the early animation, has held up quite nicely, as you can see with these episodes, and 25 years later, still has a fantastic story, great characters, and helped the Transformers franchise when it needed it most. When we come back, we're going to take a look at another well-beloved franchise. Unfortunately, the series is the most controversial of the franchise, as it caused two good friends to drift away from each other for years.
Next time on the YTV Retrospective.